230-pound Israel Adesanya, is this size going to be an advantage for him? So this came out very organically. I think it was even Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker, who teammates with Adesanya, paid him a compliment. He was talking about, man, he is hitting so hard that it's too hard for sparring partners. Like they're having to go, whoa. Talk about his power, talking about his size. Interesting comment, and that was the end of it. Hooker moved on. He had a completely other subject that he was conducting this interview about, but that stood out for me. And it does beg a question, is that good or bad? I mean, I must tell you, I have seen guys eat their way into success, but only a couple of guys, and only a couple of guys ever, like in my life, have I seen them as the bigger they got, because it's calories in to calories out. Regardless of the guy that's trying to sell you a book, or regardless of walking down the aisles at the local nutrition and seeing the books of Superflex 5000, it's calories in versus calories out. You are not going to be able to gain weight unless you're either eating more or you're exercising less. And that's where it becomes so interesting with professional athletes. That's where, hey, what did a guy weigh on this day and what does he weigh now? You will quite literally be able to prove the lack of effect that a training camp had, right? I'll see guys in the NFL, and the NFL works. You would not believe how tirelessly they work to keep these numbers private so that a smart guy like me doesn't come out and bring them to you for what they really mean. Say that we're going to go into a 90-day training camp, and the guy goes and he puts on 20 pounds of muscle. Well, the reason that you don't know about that guy is because it's impossible without an anabolic. Now, the other side of it would be if a guy goes in and he gained 20 pounds during training camp. They took weightlifting, real said they had this. Well, training camp was now very easy, because if you don't go to this big bright sign that's flashing anabolic, you're now got another sign that's flashing you didn't work very hard. It's not possible to do both. Now, this isn't a surprise with Izzy. Izzy has openly told us this. And Izzy is a gym fanatic. One thing that Eugene Berriman does, on top of another list of things that he does apparently very well, but he keeps those guys in the gym. He keeps them in the gym, not just motivated for themselves, but because they're an actual team. And there's not very many out there. There's guys that represent a team, but to be an actual team is an extremely rare thing at anything within the pros, but almost unheard of in our industry, which is why it's so incredible. If you find out Izzy weighs 230, now he has told us, he's told anybody that will listen, taking a break. I've been out of the gym. I had things that were nagging and bothering me, and I was healing them. I was enjoying my time off. I'm not coming back. I'm adding all sorts of quotes, but along the way, and I'm an Adesanya fan, so I remember these quotes. Somewhere along the way, I will not fight again until 2027. Somewhere along the way, not only will it be 2027, it's going to be in a boxing match. I mean, Izzy did anything he could do to alert you and let you know, I'm out for now. I'm out of I'm out of the gym. I'm out of goal setting. I'm out of the disciplines. I'm out. Now, I bring that to you because you never know what's accurate, what's not. How much is look at this hand so you don't see what this hand is doing? And some athletes really, really believe in that. Those are the guys that will stop sparring if somebody turns a camera on. Or that if the camera's rolling, they will start doing things different than they actually planned to do them. Just for example, it's a kind of guy. So when Izzy was putting this stuff out, what do we make of it? We're hearing about these rumors, right? He's coming out. He's going to be in the audience when Strickland's taking on Duplessis. Oh, and by the way, he's going to be in the audience because the winner versus Izzy is going to take place in the main event at UFC 300. Like, these rumors never stop. We never stop hearing about Izzy because you guys never stop caring. But now we have information that he weighs 230 pounds. So in light of the fact that you cannot just weigh 230 pounds, in light of the fact that if we followed Izzy's career, he has weighed in a number of times, including on the Dana White Contender Series at 183 pounds, which would represent 3 pounds under the contraction weight. Now, he moves up to 205 pounds somewhere along the way. We got this talk and hype coming as Izzy versus Jon Jones. Before we get to that, we got to get the belt around Izzy. which goes blue, through Blachowicz, of which Izzy was a 2-1 favorite. And he didn't just come up without the title in that fight. He weighed in for that fight well under the limit. He could not. He was talking to the media and he was telling us, and his friends were telling us he was going to be big and size wasn't going to be an issue and how big he was. Then it was time to get on the scale. And he was well under that limit. Now, what that shows us is two things. First off, Izzy's not that big. Fine, right? But the other thing that it does is it proves the very simple point that I've been making from the beginning, which you cannot be big. You cannot gain this weight and train the same. Cannot and will not happen. And you will be lied to by people till you're blue in the face. You will see exercise experts watch this and possibly even break it down. It could be Mike, it could be Coach Greg, it will be Derek. One of them might see this and go, Chael is wrong. You can train hard and gain muscle. But the problem that none of those guys will have, as much as they love to tell you that they can, outside of an anabolic, they love to tell you that yes, you can, but they couldn't show you the person that did. They don't make the claim about themselves. They don't make it about their nephew, their son. I bring family into it because that's some of you, boy, you'd really be giving the accurate information, right? That's your own flesh and blood. They can't point to them or anybody else. They gained solid muscle, gained muscle while training hard, absent of an anabolic. So when you have Izzy that's going around at 230, a guy who we know when he's fit, he couldn't even make 205. He just wasn't that big of a guy. You then have a question of how did he get there and is it going to help him? And size most definitely has its benefits. And Izzy, regardless of what your eyes tell you, is not an overly large middleweight. As much as he was clearly giving up size at 205 pounds, hey, he's spotting plenty of guys at 185 pounds. If you wanted to weigh him in on fight night, there has been plenty of times on fight night, including Dana White Contender Series, that Izzy still did not weigh the limit. And his opponents would be 200 plus. So how did we get to 230? Well, that's very, very obvious. Izzy told the truth. He took a break from suffering, from discipline, from being focused on MMA. He began to let his hair down. Exactly what he told us. Now he's got to go the other way. He's got to get that weight off. How quickly can he do that? How effectively can he do it? There has not been a time in Adesanya's career where he has had to work with a nutritionist. Now, if there's a nutritionist out there that raises his hand and says, no, excuse me. There's not been a time where he's had to work with a nutritionist. Doesn't mean that he might have done it, but he doesn't know a ton about this. This is the first time he's really going to have to pull weight. Now, can with the training and his body adjust and all of a sudden he's within striking distance? Right? It's all a race. In that there's a finish line somewhere. You don't totally know when it's going to start. When you get that phone call, bout agreement, here's the date. You don't totally know where that's going to start, where you are in the process, but you damn sure have a finish line. So this extra power, this extra strength that Adesanya has, is it relevant or is it a moot point? Athletes do this all the time. They don't realize they're doing it. They will work 24 hours a day, man. They'll be lifting the weights. They'll be doing the running. They'll be doing everything right to put on this good size. But when you're a combat athlete that has to weigh in at a limit, the only way you can weigh in at that limit when you weigh more than the limit is to quite literally cannibalize yourself. Whether you're doing that in the fat of fat, water, or muscle, it's still you and you're still taking away. It's one of the great ironies. And I would see this with wrestlers all the time. I was a wrestler going, boy, we'd be in the weight room and they'd be cranking and the coach would tell them to be in there and they'd have a little weightlifting coach and they're in there pumping away and say, yeah, but your guy's 15 pounds over the limit. We'll worry about that later. Well, yeah, we could worry about that later, but you understand he's going to have to cannibalize his body. The very muscle that you've got him in here wasting his time to put on is the very muscle that you were going to put a finger in his chest and tell him that he has to take off. Do you understand how this is a colossal waste of time? And I have never had anybody, no matter how reasonable, look me back in the eye and tell me, yes,